What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League in 2022. So on my main channel, I kind of did like roadmaps, kind of the potential of what I see or when I see things happening for certain games. I did one for Gotham Knights, I did one for Hogwarts. So I'll put Suicide Squad over here, give this channel a little bit of love. But this game obviously is a very interesting one when it comes to 2022, right? Because, for the longest time, and I still kind of in my heart believe it, I didn't really think the game was going to release in 2022. I really think, whatever, right? 2023, it could be pushed. I have always thought the game is like a very late 2022 thing. And I know that the way they've handled the marketing and talking about it, they've almost made it where they've shown about equal amounts of Suicide Squad as they have for Gotham Knights. That's not exactly true, but it's like getting closer than I thought it would, where it's like, could they actually release Suicide Squad before Gotham Knights? I will still say no. I'll still say I really don't think that's going to happen. I think Gotham Knights is still kind of, to simplify things, like the first half of the year, and then Suicide Squad is the second half, and then Hogwarts Legacy is probably also the second half. And that's kind of how I see it. I still do think there's a world where Suicide Squad gets pushed, especially considering the kind of game it is. It's obviously for like Gotham Knights, remember, it's you and it can be one other person, okay? Or it can just be you. But for Suicide Squad, remember, it's you and 3 AIs, or you and 3 online people. So it's a lot more like not the entire game, but in that sense, it's more like Avengers than, say, like a Gotham Knights is. And the only reason I bring that up is I wonder if that maybe takes them longer to kind of perfect or make sure that it's not broken, right? It's probably more of like a live servicey thing as well than Gotham Knights, so that also maybe takes extra time to make sure everything's set in stone. So I still think it's possible the game slips from this upcoming year, and I think we'd hopefully probably find that out early. I mean, that's what they did with the other two. I mean, Hogwarts, they announced the delay in January of last year that the game wasn't coming out, and then Gotham Knights was announced, I believe, a few months after that. So they don't wait all that long, which honestly I think is kind of okay, because you don't want to get like a month or two away and then say, oh, we're delaying it for a full year. Tell us right away. Tell us in the beginning of the year so we don't have to fool ourselves, you know what I mean, throughout the year. But that's the first thing. So I think, honestly, I think it's either November of this upcoming year, November 2022, or, it gets pushed to 2023. And that's the release. In terms of everything we see about it, that to me is a lot more tough, right? Because, so they're two different studios, obviously, WB Montreal and Rocksteady, but I really am going to lean heavily into, you don't want one interfering with the other. And I don't just mean that with releasing, right? You don't want them to release back-to-back weeks. Like, that's never going to happen anyway, right? But you don't want them to be too close to each other. Also, though, I don't know how you handle talking about them, like showing things. One thing we've kind of learned, if you pay attention to Microsoft or Sony, and I think a really good example would probably be Sony with The Last of Us Part 2 and then Ghost of Tsushima. Those games were about a month apart, maybe I think like 31, 32 days apart. And they really, I think, did a pretty good job. They prioritized The Last of Us, like, for sure. That was definitely the priority leading into The Last of Us. There was definitely Ghost of Tsushima stuff being shown, but it was mainly focused on The Last of Us. And then when The Last of Us was out, then you got a real big push for Ghost of Tsushima, and then Ghost of Tsushima came out. Now, again, that was only a 1-month difference, and I think you probably want to have more than a 1-month difference for these two games, Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, because they're in the exact same, or they're in a DC universe, not the same universe, and also not the same, like, what they're doing, but it's close enough where I think even for marketing, and that's why I bring it up. So, like, I'm talking about when will we see it next, right? I think, and DC fandom has proved you can do both at the same time, but there's definitely a leaning one way or another, and then for some reason Suicide Squad is shown at the Game Awards, but not Gotham Knights. So I could see a general biasness almost in a way, right? On like Gotham Knights, the first couple months of the year, especially when Gotham Knights gets a release date, okay? Leading into it 2 months before, 1 month before when the game is out, it's going to be like heavily Gotham Knights. But I don't think that stops Suicide Squad, and I don't think it should. And then as soon as Gotham Knights is over, as long as there's not like massive end game content, or they constantly patch it, which I think is fine, or like add things onto it, which they could. I don't think that would really interfere with promoting Suicide Squad. That's when the Suicide Squad stuff really would kick on. I think my opinion is like this E3 time, like June-ish, is probably when you start pushing Suicide Squad really hard, no matter if it releases in August, if it releases in October, if it releases in November. I think around the early summertime is when you really start to push, you know, what you're going to show. Now, you know, what they could show, I hope there's like an alpha for it or a beta. Like, that would be pretty darn cool to get our hand. I think if there's any game out of, say, the 3 big ones that I'm anticipating, at least for WB, right? Suicide Squad, Gotham Knights, Hogwarts. If there's any of them that could do like an alpha or beta or stress test or whatever, it's definitely Suicide Squad. So maybe we can get our hands on it. But I really think towards the second half of the year is when we're going to see it a lot, when, you know, obviously like press people get to play and all that stuff, and then when obviously we get our hands on it at the very end of that. So that's kind of the roadmap I would envision for it, is towards the middle of this year is when we're going to see a real big push. It would keep going, and then the game probably releases towards the very end. I know there's some people that think, you know, maybe like the summer. I mean, hey, I'm not, if it wants to release in August or July, be my guest. You know what I mean? I would have absolutely no problem with that. I would not ever turn that down, and I would play the living heck out of it. But I'm going to personally just assume the very end of the year. That way, even if it's like delayed or anything, I'm not going to be as upset as maybe others. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. I do a brand new video on the channel every single day, and so I hope to see you guys for tomorrow's video.